Jannik Sinner is now one match away from joining Novak Djokovic in one of the most exclusive clubs in tennis history. And honestly, that sentence alone sounds ridiculous. Because what we're watching right now from Jannik Sinner no longer feels like a hot streak. It feels like total control over men's tennis. After surviving a chaotic, rain-delayed battle against Daniil Medvedev in the Italian Open semifinals, Sinner now stands one victory away from completing the career Golden Masters, something only Novak Djokovic has ever accomplished. And standing across the net, Casper Ruud, one of the best clay court players of this generation, a former world number 2, a player who desperately needs the biggest win of his career. The problem is this. Right now, facing Sinner almost feels unfair, because every tournament lately ends the same way. Someone plays great tennis against him, someone pushes him physically, someone creates brief hope. Then Sinner eventually takes control anyway. That's exactly what happened against Medvedev. At first, it looked like another comfortable demolition. Sinner came out flying, crushing the opening set 6-2 with almost perfect shot making. The first serve rhythm looked effortless. The baseline aggression looked overwhelming. The crowd in Rome felt completely electric watching their home superstar dominate again. Then suddenly the match changed. Medvedev started extending rallies. Sinner's energy dropped slightly. The physical signs became impossible to ignore. Heavy breathing, slow movement between points, leg discomfort, and eventually the controversial medical timeout. That moment completely changed the atmosphere around the match, because Medvedev clearly believed Sinner was receiving treatment for cramps, which technically is not allowed under current ATP rules. You could see the frustration immediately. Even commentators started questioning what was happening. But here's the fascinating part. Even while physically struggling, even while emotionally frustrated, Sinner still found a way to win. That's what separates this version of him from almost everyone else on tour. The mentality. Many players panic physically when momentum shifts against them. Sinner doesn't. Instead, he resets quickly and keeps competing point by point. And when the match resumed after the overnight rain suspension, he slammed the door shut almost immediately. That's champion behavior. Now he enters the Rome final carrying something even more dangerous than confidence. History. Because if Sinner wins this tournament, he joins Djokovic as the only man ever to complete the career Golden Masters by winning every ATP Masters 1000 event. Think about how insane that is. Roger Federer never completed it. Rafael Nadal never completed it. Only Djokovic. And potentially Sinner, at just 24 years old. That's why this final feels bigger than just another trophy. This feels like the arrival of a truly historic era in men's tennis. Now let's talk about Casper Ruud, because honestly, his story entering this final is fascinating too. For years, Ruud has quietly been one of the best clay court players in the world. Roland Garros finals, deep Masters runs, consistent success on slower surfaces. But there's always been one criticism attached to his career. Can he win the truly massive matches? Can he beat the absolute elite when everything is on the line? That question still follows him. And now he faces the hardest challenge possible. A red-hot world number 1 playing in front of a screaming home crowd in Italy. That's brutal. Still, Ruud deserves enormous credit for this Rome run. Quietly, he's rebuilding momentum after a difficult stretch in his career. Dropping outside the ATP top 20 shocked many fans because for years he represented consistency. Now suddenly he has a chance to completely change the narrative again. Imagine what this victory would mean. Defeating the best player in the world, ending the historic Masters winning streak, winning one of the biggest titles of his career. In Rome, that would instantly become a defining moment for Casper Ruud. The issue is this. The matchup looks terrifying for him statistically. Sinner has dominated this rivalry completely. 4 matches, 4 victories. And honestly, some of them weren't even competitive. The most brutal example came right here in Rome last season when Sinner absolutely destroyed Ruud 6-1 6-0. That scoreline still feels shocking, especially because Ruud was actually playing excellent tennis during that stretch after winning Madrid. It didn't matter. Sinner overwhelmed him completely. That's what makes this final so complicated emotionally for Ruud. On one side, he's playing some excellent clay tennis again. On the other side, the player across the net has repeatedly exposed the gap between elite and best in the world. And right now, Sinner genuinely looks untouchable, especially without Carlos Alcaraz in the draw. That's another important part of this story. At the moment, Alcaraz feels like the only player capable of consistently matching Sinner's explosiveness and physical intensity. Without him, the rest of the ATP Tour suddenly looks slightly overwhelmed trying to solve this version of the Italian superstar. Even Medvedev admitted it after losing. He basically said the only chance against Sinner is surviving brutal baseline exchanges and hoping physically he drops late. That's exhausting. Because to even stay competitive against Sinner now, players must play near perfect tennis for hours. And even then, it may not be enough. Now let's discuss the tactical side of this final because it's actually fascinating. Ruud's biggest strength is heavy clay court consistency. His topspin forehand creates uncomfortable bounce. His movement on dirt remains elite, and physically he usually handles long rallies extremely well. Against most players, that combination becomes dangerous. Against Sinner, the pace changes everything. Sinner takes time away faster than almost anyone in modern tennis. He hits through clay courts in a way that almost feels unnatural sometimes. Opponents constantly look rushed against him, even on slower surfaces. That's exactly why Ruud struggled so badly in previous meetings. Sinner never allows him to settle into rhythm comfortably, and once Sinner starts controlling baseline tempo, matches become terrifyingly quick. We just saw it recently against Alexander Zverev too, another elite player, another destruction. That's why many analysts expect a similar result in Rome. Especially with the crowd factor, do not underestimate what this atmosphere means emotionally. Italian tennis has waited decades for a home superstar capable of dominating the sport globally like this. Every time Sinner walks onto court in Rome, the energy feels different, louder, more emotional. Almost like football energy instead of traditional tennis crowds. Ruud will feel that pressure immediately, especially if Sinner starts fast. And honestly, early momentum may decide everything here. If Ruud falls behind quickly, memories of previous beatdowns could start creeping into the match mentally. That's the danger of one-sided rivalries. Players begin carrying emotional scars into new meetings whether they want to or not. Meanwhile, Sinner walks onto court knowing he already owns this matchup psychologically. That confidence changes shot making under pressure. Now here's the one thing giving Ruud some hope. Clay. If there's any surface where extended physical rallies can test Sinner, this is it. We already saw physical cracks appearing against Medvedev. The question becomes whether Ruud can stretch those exchanges long enough to create another physical battle. Because tactically, pure shot making alone probably won't beat Sinner right now. The physical route may be the only realistic path. Still, even that feels dangerous because Sinner's competitive spirit lately has looked terrifying. Against Medvedev, many players would have mentally collapsed after the physical struggles and controversy surrounding the medical timeout. Instead, Sinner returned Saturday morning and finished the job within minutes. Cold, efficient, focused. That's championship mentality. And honestly, that's why this final suddenly feels historic. Not because Ruud lacks talent, because Sinner currently looks like he's entering that rare zone where elite players stop feeling vulnerable consistently. We saw it with Djokovic. We saw it with Federer. We saw it with Nadal. And now, maybe we're watching the beginning of Sinner's version. That's scary for the rest of the ATP Tour. Because if he completes the career Golden Masters already at 24, the conversation about his long-term place in tennis history changes immediately. Suddenly, we're no longer discussing potential. We're discussing legacy, and Rome would become one of the defining moments of that journey. Still, sports become unforgettable precisely because impossible moments sometimes happen. Ruud knows that too. Nobody expects him to win. That can actually become dangerous psychologically because it removes pressure entirely. If Ruud starts freely, lands heavy forehands early, and drags Sinner into another physical marathon, maybe the tension changes. Maybe. But honestly, right now it's incredibly difficult imagining anyone stopping this version of Jannik Sinner, especially in Italy, especially with history waiting. So now the question shifts to all of you. Can Casper Ruud shock the tennis world and stop Jannik Sinner's historic streak? Or are we about to witness the official arrival of tennis's next all-time great superstar? Because this Rome final suddenly feels like far more than just another Masters title. It feels historic. TennisIQ is where we break down the rivalries, pressure, and defining moments shaping modern tennis, and trust me, this Sinner story feels like it's only getting bigger from here.